Hello, welcome to today's immigration tidbit. First of all, you have to be careful when you state you want to report marriage fraud because a lot of times what happens is the spouse is disagreeable, leaves, and you think you've been defrauded, but you haven't, and it's just a bad marriage. And when you report marriage fraud, the first thing they're going to do is not only look on the person you're reporting, but they're going to look on you too, because many times marriage fraud is a two-way street. And so you want to be careful when you do this. Now, for example, let's say you've been married for 3 years, you have a kid, you've been living together all this time, and your spouse got the green card 3 months ago and now left. That's not marriage fraud, okay? Especially because you have a kid with your spouse, if that's the case, and because the person left shortly after getting the green card does not by itself mean that there's been fraud. When there's marriage fraud, the bottom line is that the person has entered into the marriage for purposes of getting the green card, not because of love. And so in order to prove that, one needs to look at all the time you knew each other before you got married, all the communications, then what happened after you got married, living together, the joint accounts, and so forth. So there's lots of pieces of evidence that need to be looked at to determine if there's marriage fraud. Now, if in fact, for example, it turns out that there is real marriage fraud, then you would report it to ICE, and then ICE would determine whether or not they believe that there's marriage fraud, and then put the person in removal proceedings if that is appropriate. It is not reporting something to get back at a spouse that has displeased you or that has left you. Marriage fraud is very specific. And the typical scenario is somebody pays somebody $10,000 and then they pretend they love each other and get married. And so, if you don't have any of those indicia of evidence on you and it really is a marriage fraud, then you can report it, but certainly be careful. Okay.